loved your waterfall. Loved your waterfall activity, Kaon, because that gave us a few ideas as well. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not doing that much of AI here, but that's okay. I will tweak it to add more AI for us. So we will get to the AI as well. So as I think many of you already know me, Anita Samuel, I'm with the Uniformed Services University. And like I've said many times before, no one knows us. We're in Bethesda, Maryland, and we are the medical school for the Department of Defense. So we're actually located within the Walter Reed medical complex itself, and which is where my office is currently. So my colleague and I, Jerusalem, and I work with we used to be a center. We're now a department for health professions education within the School of Medicine. And I'll Michael, thank you so much for the promotion, but I am not an associate provost. I'm just an associate professor. Don't think I ever want that. So I'm just an associate professor with the department.
Well, I think you
Jerusalem,
deserve a promotion. That's why I
no,
gave it
no,
to you.
no. Jerusalem, you want to jump in?
No, I think you've articulated it well. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for the kind presentation. And we're looking forward to discussing how can we actually reflect in an online space in a way that's meaningful. We are here in Bethesda, and it always feels like no one knows us. So thanks for having us.
As Michael's introduction said, Jerusalem's area of expertise is metacognitive reflection. I'm in the online learning space, and together we've kind of tried to bring that together. And we wanted to talk a little bit about our experiences. Before we start, all the opinions and assertions are our own, do not reflect the Department of Defense, US government, or our university. And we have no conflicts of interest. Okay, so I think many of you know me, and I like to talk a lot, but I also love to have conversations. So let's have this as a little bit of an interaction. I wanted to ask you all, what have been your experiences with metacognitive reflection in online learning? Have you tried teaching this, or have you tried doing this with your learners? And what has been your experience? You can turn on your microphones and speak as well, because it's just a small group of us.
Well, this is Trish. I'll go first since no one else sounds like they want to talk. I think it's hard to get students to engage in this. I think that in general, the educational systems in the US, the K-12 especially, doesn't teach that. We teach memorization and spitting information back out. We don't teach metacognition and reflection. And it's really, really difficult to get students to engage in those kinds of activities. Because to them, it doesn't feel like it's learning. Their definition, their frame of reference for what learning is, doesn't involve doing any of that stuff. And it's hard to get them transitioned to that.
That's a really good point, that they don't see it as learning. And yes, just getting people to sit and think about why you did it, what you did, and what worked and didn't work. It's not easy. I mean, I don't think any of us actually consciously spend that time every day, do we? I mean, we might like to, but we don't really. So, I mean, I agree, it's not easy. Anyone else? Any other thoughts that you have?
I can jump in if you like.
Sure, go ahead.
So I am teaching an online adult learning course, transition course for our online students who join our online programs. And so we have a lot of conversation about transformative learning theory, andragogy. They get to do a success plan. And so they reflect a lot on their motivation to be in a degree, how they've been learning so far, what do they think that would work best for them. And so we actually have a success plan where they strive to reflect and think about what has been working so far, what will work best as adults in an online program. And we usually come up with SMART goals, and that kind of helps them. So, yeah.
That's great. Anyone else want to share? Yes, Paulette, go ahead. And then, oh, I'm sorry, I missed Amanda, but I'll go with Paulette and then Amanda jump in.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, Paulette Isaac Savage, University of Missouri, St. Louis. So I'm teaching an online class this semester outside of adult education. But in the class, I do encourage students to reflect on their own experiences as we are going through different stages of the lifespan. And I remind them that in doing so, it helps the other learners in the class. And I do divide my students into groups. So this semester I have 25 students, so I have 5 students per group. Then I also have some other activities for them to do. So we do an emotion activity every week. And then I also have them do a blog. And so with that blog exercise, I tell them, take this opportunity to reflect on your experiences, reflect on what you have read so far, or consider other posts that group members have uploaded. And so students seem to really do a good job with that. And I do monitor it to make sure that no one's being disrespectful of others. So that seems to be working pretty well in my class this semester.
That's great. Thank you, Paulette. Amanda, go ahead.
I'll figure out how to lower my hand in a minute. But thank you. It's great to be here and interact with people in the space too, right? So I currently teach in an undergrad program at Texas State University, and I work within an interdisciplinary degree. And I teach the capstone courses, so the very last 2 courses of the degree program. Within that, we are very intentional about having our students reflect during the whole process. So we have multiple micro reflections through discussion boards. Like Paulette said, they're monitored to make sure everything is good. Then we also have a very intentional, 5-page paper where they have prompts to address within reflection, so critical reflection. And then at the very end, we also have kind of a encompassing how did the course go? What were your thoughts? What went well? What would you say to other students coming in? What would you have wanted to know ahead of time? So we intentionally put in different types of reflections. So it's not completely bombarding, and it keeps their critical thinking throughout the program. And it's been great to help us, build the program up, pivot when we need to, keep it relevant for our learners.
I love that end of the course reflection. I have a paper in pretty much all my courses as well, reflect on the course, what did you learn? And it's so interesting to see what different people come up with. And it's great to hear that you've all been doing reflection and you're doing reflective exercises, right? So we can build on this together. And we're just here to share about our experiences and what we are doing within our program. And since we're talking about AI tools and all that, right, I thought we would and we know why reflection is important because, I mean, it's not just the doing of it, right? We have to think about why we're doing it. And just yesterday, we had one of our master's learners present about getting learners to reflect on their multiple choice questions and why they made that decision. And even if they get it right, why did you make that choice? Things like that are really important for healthcare professionals who are basically going to be diagnosing illnesses, right? So that reflective process is really important for us. So with that in mind, I thought we'd do a little exercise. So I want you to think of a challenging online teaching experience you've had. So this is going to be our case scenario, right? And you're going to do a little reflective exercise with this. And so what Jerusalem and I thought was, we would do this in 2 ways. First, we're going to use an AI tool and do it with the AI tool. And then after that, I'm hoping to put you all into little breakout rooms to do the same thing, but in person with conversations. All right? So let's start with the AI tool. So in the chat, I'm going to put a link to an AI tool, and let me make sure I'm on the right chat thing here. So again, the scenario that we're thinking about is a challenging online teaching learning experience you've had. And just go to this space and you'll see that it opens up a nice little window for you. It says that its mission is to help you go deeper with your reflection by asking questions. So I'll give you all like 3 to 5 minutes because it works really fast to just kind of put this in and see what happens and what kind of prompting it does for you. Okay, let's do 1 more minute and then we'll come back. Breakout rooms.
Anita, can you do the breakout rooms or do you need my help?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay.
All right, so you've tried the tool. What I'm going to do now is to put you in little breakout rooms of groups of 3. Well, yeah, we'll go with 3. And I'm going to give you another 2 or 3 minutes. Same thing. One of you share your challenging online learning situation. The others can ask, prompting questions to get the person who's sharing to think more about the situation and how they could have handled it better. What learning did they get out of it? Okay. So I'm going to put you in your little groups right now. And I'm opening all the rooms. Okay, Trisha, Brenda, Karina, do you want to join or is that okay? Okay, Trisha's left.
Whatever you like. Up to
Yeah,
you.
you can go ahead and participate as well. Oh, for you, I haven't put you because you are a host and it's not showing you for me. But every
Okay.
group has 2 people, so it's okay. I'm going to go
Okay.
join a couple of groups and see what they're talking about, I guess.
I'll do the same.
Okay. I'm going to group 2. Actually, we should make you a co-host as well, Jerusalem. Well,
Then
she's
I'll go
left.
to 3. Okay?
Sorry, you're going to?
I'll go to 3.
Okay, I'll go to 1 and just have a look.
Anita, our group was asking for a little bit more time. We were just getting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. I'm not going to close it then. Okay.
Okay. They were like, we're just getting started.
Okay.
Wait, can I not go back to my room, my breakout? Once you leave, is it done?
I don't know. I'm just let me just send out this broadcast message and then I'll check where you are. There you are. No, okay. Yeah, you should be able to see it. Click on breakout rooms at the bottom somewhere. Can you see it? Yeah, okay. Hey, Corinna.
Hey, so just FYI, Kayon had to leave,
I know.
so I think
Mhm.
she's logged in. Okay, good.
She
And
mentioned she's
still
for her mother.
we still need to schedule that meeting. I will follow up.
Oh, yes. Oh my God, yes. I am so sorry. Okay, I am going off on holiday. So maybe first week of April.
We'll do. We'll do.
Okay.
April sounds good. March is pretty crazy for me as well.
Yeah, it's just oh, it's still recording. Oops. Can we pause the recording? Resume recording. Okay.
Our conversation was just getting good.
I'm sorry. So one reason we wanted to do both sides of that exercise was, like I put in that broadcast message, I wanted you to experience an AI tool doing this and then also working on that same reflective exercise with peers, right? And with humans asking you questions. And I'd love to hear what you thought were your personal experiences in this. So anyone can jump in, just raise your hand and turn on your microphone.
Well, I'll go, Anita.
Sure.
When we started talking, the AI tool Riff kept me more focused. I'll be honest with you. Because when we started talking, we started talking. Well, that's very interesting. What happens there? And then we started going off on a tangent a little bit. But this one just keeps you straight and narrow. I mean, it keeps asking you to repeat. And the question we had was, how far does this go? How will it continue to go until you just stop the conversation, or will it circle back? What have you ever gone? How deep have you gone into using Riff?
I haven't gone deep because I don't have that patience. So no, I don't know how long it goes. If anyone would like to spend a long time with it, let me know. This is actually a beta testing version from a university in Florida. I don't want to say which one. So you actually can ask them for permission to use it. Riff also will integrate with your learning management systems. This is really set up for education purposes. That's the Riff bot. But other than that, you've got a whole slew of online AI reflective tools as well. Anyone else, your experiences with Riff and your human conversations?
I think it's a really quick way to reflect on your experience and learn from it. I mean, literally, it took me whatever time, a couple of minutes that we had, and it really helped me think through how to prevent a problem that happened yesterday. Right. So what am I going to do going to the front end of it? So yeah. Cool.
That's great. Anyone else? Okay. So and remember, like I said, there are a lot of tools that will do this. In fact, ChatGPT can also lead you through these kind of questions. I've tried it with ChatGPT and it works as well. So with all of this, what are we doing and how are we implementing it? And so we wanted to talk through what we're doing and kind of explore that a little bit more. And I'm going to hand this over to Jerusalem at this point.
Thanks, Anita. Yeah, so Kolb suggests that students have to go through these 4 stages, right? That they have to go through the emotion, the feeling, cognition, observation, and action in order for learning to actually take place. And so in our online course in learning theories, what we've done is, Anita, can you go to the next slide, please? What we've done is we've taken these 4 cycles from David Kolb's theory and implemented it in such a way, it sort of goes to Tim's comment. We like Kolb's theory because it gives us a structured way to engage in reflection. So you'll typically hear from research in undergraduate education showing a lot of students deem reflection a waste of time. But with your adult learners, in that context, you'll often hear, I don't have the time to engage in reflection while I'm engaging in intense activities like clinical reasoning, or I'm pressed for time in an organizational setting. So we intentionally selected this theory or framework of metacognitive reflection because it essentially says that false dichotomy doesn't exist, that that metacognition and reflection intersect in such a way that both the metacognitive activities, which includes emotion and heightened awareness of context, sort of take place in a unified manner in the brain, right? So that false dichotomy sort of goes away. And so when we think about metacognitive reflection, we're thinking about this holistic way of thinking, feeling, and reflecting. And we think David Kolb's, though not perfect, and it has its criticisms, it sort of eloquently captures that. And so in this online learning theories activity, we asked them to give us a concrete experience, offer a thick description, what happened during this difficult scenario. So in the concrete experience phase, they simply are permitted to describe what happened. Give us a thick description. In the reflective observation space, then they begin to think more broadly. Well, what happened? Do I often behave in this way? Or was it just this instance that provoked my anger? Or what happened? Why did I lose self-confidence during this meeting? Or what happened? Is this a pattern that typically emerges when I encounter such activities or conflicts, or is it just this one instance? And so they begin to think more reflectively and to try to think about the scenario from multiple angles. Then we ask them to go into the theory conceptualization space. And this is where they draw from the literature to say, well, what I noticed was that was my first teaching activity and my cognitive load was so high, so that they begin to integrate some of the constructs that they're learning in the course and can begin to apply what it looks like in their specific context. So perhaps my self-efficacy was low during that moment because it was the first time that I've taught. And then we asked them to, in the concrete experience, and the active experimentation phase, to think about very real activities that they're going to implement. So it's not just an intention, like one day I plan to do this, but no, here are steps that I can take. I'm going to exercise before I engage in that course because it's so intense. So they give us concrete action items that they'll engage in. And what we've seen in the online spaces during the discussion, they sort of move out from this sort of metacognitive reflection independently, but also engage in this sort of social metacognitive activity where they're now getting feedback from their peers saying, well, have you considered this? Or perhaps you behaved in this way because of this. And here are some theories that might help you, or here are other ways that you could explain it, so that by getting feedback from multiple learners, they begin to zoom out. I think you're on mute, Anita.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Jerusalem. So in the online space, for the courses that we were just discussing, like Amanda said, it's an online course, but it's split up over a few weeks. And we have 2 course examples. One is like 6 weeks and one is 9 weeks. But it's over a period of at least 3 to 4 weeks that we have them engage in this particular reflective exercise. So at least 4 weeks so they can go through each of the stages. It's definitely in groups. And putting them in groups, and especially heterogeneous groups, is very intentional for us, so that they get the multiple perspectives to challenge your views. And that was one of the things that we found. I mean, when I was trying the Riff bot, right, I couldn't get that. It can give you one perspective on it, but it doesn't challenge you as much. And if you're in this, if you're really committed to what you're doing, and all our learners are adult learners, healthcare professionals, they're coming here out of their own volition, so they're committed to the learning. And they can really find these pain points kind of thing and ask about, okay, what about this? Why didn't you think of this? Questions. And a couple of you mentioned, we have to monitor it to make sure that, it's not going somewhere else. So we encourage them to ask questions. You don't do commenting on another person's experiences. You ask questions so that they can think about it. And these are usually 1 week long. Everyone posts a little bit to the other person. We have them in small groups. So maybe 4 to 5 group is what we usually do. And they go through each of these stages. And then at the end of it, they then reframe that whole concrete experience that they started with and say, okay, now that I've gone through all this reflection with everyone, this is where I'm at right now. And this is what I will be doing differently. And these are my steps for that. So that's the metacognitive reflective exercise that we've done in our program. And we have had a lot of success with it. Our learners have actually, this is probably one of the exercises that they all really enjoy because they find learning from their peers far more helpful, things that they haven't thought about, and the multiple perspective things, they really love that part of it. But to the point about keeping you focused, this is one way of keeping you focused. But even within this, learners can get distracted, right? Describe a scenario that can be pretty vague as well, and you want to focus them in some more. And so that focusing in some more, I went to ChatGPT and I asked it to give me some reflective focus questions, and this is what I got. And we have found this to be very, very powerful to give them. And especially when you're talking of undergraduate learners and all, these are like questions you answer, and they can all do that very well. So describe the situation, who was involved, what was the setting, what were the main events, put that down there. You've given your concrete experience. Then we come to reflective observation, right? So were you anxious? What were your emotions? What went well? What can you do differently? Was there team dynamics and external factors? So these kind of questions get them to think a little bit more deeply when they post their reflection itself. This also helps the group members when they are questioning their team member on their reflection, as in, okay, you say you're anxious, but have you thought about this? And you get more, and these kind of become prompting questions for both sides of the conversation. Then we go into abstract conceptualization. Again, we have a few prompting questions for that. What have you learned? And are there any theories? Because remember, we are in a graduate program, and I think even for undergraduate and all, we're kind of connecting it to the learning that they're doing in class, right? And you want them to connect it to the theories there. So let them draw from those theories and justify what they're doing over here. And how does this compare to other experiences? Because you want them to have that abstract thinking and contextualize it broadly so that they can see patterns and all that. And then finally, develop an action plan. And that, I think, is the most concrete active experimentation, as in facing this, I should do this, 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 and this. And that really helps them concretize their action plan as well. And how will you measure the success? That's a really nice one as well. And that helps them think through the action plan a little bit more concretely when they need to measure it as well. What would you see as success in this situation? And that gives them a different framing to think about as well. And now, the last one, share your action plan. Obviously, we don't do, that's one prompting question we have, but we don't give that during the course itself. What we found is we try to think about this as a lifelong learning experience, right? So they practice this with us, great, but the ideal is where they can do this by themselves outside the scenario of a group discussion. And so they take these questions with them, and it becomes a reflective tool for them to use. And we still encourage them to go and share your plan with a colleague or a mentor and get some feedback from them. So within the course, we still personally feel it's great to have humans asking you the questions than the bot, but I think the AI bots are going to get much better at this. The questions that can come up and how you react to them and all, I will say that the AI bots are great for self-reflection. If you have no one else around you and you need some time to think about it, it's going to be an amazing tool. So you've got both of these. And I think as online instructors, we have so many options available to us now. We should be capitalizing on these things. And with that, we come to Q&A. And I've even got 10 minutes for Q&A. Thank you all so much. I know I rushed through things. If you have questions or comments, I'd love to hear that. I think Yeah. Again, just, unmute yourselves and jump right in. Chat here.
I can ask a
Okay.
question, Anita.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Karina.
Yes. Can you give us some examples of platforms that you're using? So you shared this one for reflection. You mentioned ChatGPT. Do you see other platforms that would be useful or that you've used and you would recommend?
I haven't. I did look at a few, but many of them were paid versions, and I don't like using paid versions, so I didn't. The ChatGPT is free, but if you want free ones, I mean, you still have Google Gemini, Microsoft Copilot. All of those are free versions as well. So if you're in the Microsoft ecosystem, definitely try out Copilot. Google Gemini, if you're in the Google ecosystem. You've also got Perplexity, and what was the other one? Claude AI. But Claude, I would not recommend much for a self-reflection kind of thing. The most robust tool for now is still ChatGPT. And when you're going into something like ChatGPT and the others that I mentioned, they're more generic AI tools. So I needed to give them a bit more prompting for it to get into that reflective space. But things like this RiffBot and all have been created just for reflection, right? And so they do that reflection piece of it really well. What I liked with ChatGPT is it actually would repeat what I said. So you said this, and this. Have you thought about this? And what are the next steps? So it kind of comes back to you with what you said and then builds on it. But I did need to do a little bit of training with it. So when I looked at that, I was like, I'm definitely going to tell my learners about this because I want them to have those skills of, even if you can get 5 minutes, try it out and see what it gets you to think. And when I tried it out, it really got me to think differently. And I don't like reflection.
Anita, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Kayon.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question to that. How do you address the fears that many faculty and or educators out there have of the fact that ChatGPT is somehow taking away this ability of us humans in terms of critical reflection? That there's that latent fear. And so I just wondered if your Jerusalem had thoughts about how much you encourage your students to use it with the risk that they might use it for other things. I don't know if you had any thoughts.
Well, I'll go first and then Jerusalem can jump in. I mean, I've just taken this head on. I just see that this tool is a tool that they're going to have to know how to use, which means their critical reflection and their critical thinking processes are going to have to change to adapt to this tool. It's kind of like reading a map versus using your GPS, using mental math versus using a scientific calculator, those kind of things. With focusing in on reflection alone, right? I think these AI tools actually push you to do more critical reflection than we have been in the past. And I see this as a real tool for me as an educator because I can't sit one-to-one and talk to my learner and get them to think about all of this, right? Even doing a group exercise and all takes a lot of planning, but it's a lot easier for them to do it with an AI tool. And there's very low risk involved in this, and they just kind of go and put it in. You can use it on your mobile device, so it's very accessible for them as well. So speaking of reflection alone, I think this is a very powerful tool and it enhances your critical thinking over here. The critical thinking piece, I'd also say, Keon, is like AI is like any tool, and we need to be teaching our learners how to critically assess the tool and use it. Jerusalem, you want to add on anything?
Just that, well, there's in terms of the fear, I think there's the human element and the discipline that often Dewey talks about, that the individual has to actually be willing to sit in order to obtain higher level or complex or achieve a deeper level of reflection. And so I think it's a great tool to begin, but you also realize that that human element is essential and to be able to discern what's actually useful for your particular challenge, if that makes any sense.
I've also thought about this in the way that, especially with healthcare learners, right, our medical students and all of them, there is a fear of admitting weakness. And so they don't really want to reflect on things that have gone badly, or they don't want to do it with their peers because that's seen as I'm failing something. So an AI tool like this removes that, right? Because they can just do this one-on-one, and it's not a human person over there. So it gives them more freedom to be candid and really learn from that experience. So we've kind of been balancing that out. Luckily for us, our population are adults who've kind of, moved beyond that. But for our medical students and all, we found that that could be a really helpful thing. So yeah, what I would say is if you're doing anything like this, go try it out and see what your students say, right? I mean, they may hate it, they may love it, but it's another tool for you to try out is what I would say. But getting people to sit and reflect and think about it is always challenging. Thank you all so much for joining us. If you have any questions, you have any suggestions, we'd love to hear. And you have my email address and contact, so happy to connect on any way.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you both so much for joining us today. And I'll put in the chat the link to our LinkedIn page. But we'll
I'm
send
going to
some
stop the recording now.
emails
okay?
about this. Okay.
All right, stop.